How do you win on your day off? Well, the Guardians moved into first place. They have the best record in Major League Baseball on their day off, and their top overall draft pick, Travis Bazan, hit a grand slam and had a great debut in Lake County. I'll count that as a win.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show today. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
On today's show, we're going to get into the aftermath of the trade deadline. Got some leftover thoughts from the trades, what did happen, what didn't happen, some things we just didn't have time to bring up yesterday. We're going to get into playoff seeding. It's an exciting time to talk about playoffs for the Guardians because now that the draft and the deadline is behind us, it's time to look ahead to see what this team can do in October. So we'll talk about the importance of seeding. And I think today, finally, we're going to get to talking about when those draft picks are going to debut. I promise today is the day, Jeff.
No, he's making promises. We'll have to see if he can follow them up. For those who do not know me, I am Jeff Ellis. I want to do a few quick thank yous. First, Brian Sarkuza, very kind comments. And then to our iTunes fans out there who left some reviews when we asked you, the Birdman 11 How 0144 and Bernie-Kozar 19. Thank you all for the kind reviews. For those who do not know me, I am Jeff Ellis, one of your co-hosts here, have been since the start of the Locked On MLB Network. Before that, I was a lead draft and prospect analyst at Scoutin' 24/7. And before that, I was your fourth favorite blogger at every Cleveland sports blog that has or will exist.
Today it's 4. Okay, 4. See what that is. I'm Justin Latta, your other co-host, and I've been covering Guardians prospects since 2007. You've read me at sites like Guardians Baseball Insider. If you haven't heard of me here first, and I've also been around at the Morning Journal, the News Herald for a couple of years now. Shout out to Brian. Met him in Lake County on Tuesday night. A couple of people I didn't get the shout out the other day because we were so quickly getting to everything. Brian, Joey Jump Off, I think Nate, a bunch of people that I met in Lake County. So appreciate all you guys, all the conversations out there, especially during that rain delay. That was an interesting day. We were there longer than it took to see one inning of baseball. I drove longer to get there than it took for the captains to play one inning. So I didn't get to go back on Wednesday and see Travis Bazan's grand slam, but we'll talk about that a little bit, or maybe not tomorrow. Some leftover thoughts from the trade deadline. So, Jeff, I'll let you go first because I've got a theory about this team and the playoffs. The only thing I'm going to point out is, I wasn't overly thrilled with the Alex Cobb trade, and I know there really wasn't a whole much out there. It's a risk that if it works out, he is, again, we said the third or fourth best starter traded, probably the third. I will say that Kai Correa, we didn't mention that Stephen Vogt knows Alex Cobb very well. They were teammates twice, and Kai Correa knows him from the Giants last year, and so does Craig Alvarez. This is a team that knows Alex Cobb very well, so that might bode well for them. He has got playoff experience. He reportedly is one of the best clubhouse guys, so he fits this team very well. Again, if it works out, if he's healthy, I think it's a great pickup. It's just a huge if on health. And as I said, I didn't love trading a good asset for a guy who might not be healthy, but I'll wait to see what he does before I really judge on that. But I think it's interesting how well the guys on this team know Cobb and the experience he brings. I think that does make for an interesting factor.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the big things is, I saw a lot of people upset that they didn't do more, but what more was there to do? Look at the deadline itself. It was a kind of a boring deadline. Not boring. There was a lot happening. I found that exciting, but when you're looking at it, just not a lot of trade, big names because of the third wild card. Teams feel like they got a chance. Teams feel like they're in it super late. Teams are out there. No one is given up. The Giants, right? I had someone be like, they should have traded for Blake Snell if they're all in. The Giants, they traded Cobb. That was the pitcher they Cobb. They kept Snell because they also went out and added Mark Canehot. In the teams that should have sold, the Angels, they didn't. They sold their relievers, but they didn't. The Rockies made 0 trades. The Angels didn't trade anyone who wasn't a rental. It was there was not a big trade to be had. It's I know people are like, I want to Taylor Blake Ward. It's or Taylor Blake Ward's my friend, Taylor Ward, but it's no one was trading him. And by the way, over the last 2 months, Lane Thomas has better performed. You can't force a big deal. You can't sit there and be like, okay, we're taking this guy and we're giving you these prospects. There wasn't one to be had. And it sounded like, the biggest name at the deadline was Shaq Flattery. The Yankees pulled back because they're concerned about his medicals. It sounds like they never were willing to engage with Cleveland in those talks. Same thing with the White Sox and Fetty. They didn't want to, you can't force things. It was a low-key deadline. Like, maybe it's not the guys you wanted, but again, Alex Cobb is one of the few guys who was traded who has a chance to be a number 3 starter. And the other thing I'll point out too is, like, who's the last pitching prospect this team traded who came back to hurt them? And like, you and I off air were like, maybe Drew Pomeranz, but it took him a decade. And also, like, turning into a reliever, which is poor value for a guy taken for top 5 overall. So I don't even think that hurts you. So yeah, would I have loved them to come like IKF? That would have been the perfect guy, honestly, if they could have gotten him. But like, there was ways to do more. So I understand. I feel like they could have done more, but to be down because it wasn't exciting enough, I think is a little unfair.
And the funny thing is, like, Lane Thomas has played all of one game this season for them. They've gotten to the best record in baseball without all those additions. So we're sitting here saying, they need more. And it's like, what they have, they're sitting on top of the baseball world right now in terms of record. And this team is going to make the playoffs. And how many people were saying that on August 1st, this team would be the best team in baseball? It would have had to have been by virtue of Shane Bieber having a Cy Young year, Tanner Bybee having a Cy Young year, and getting great, MVP years from Josh Naylor and Jose Ramirez. But no, it's been the Quan show, and Jose has been streaky. Josh Naylor's been streaky, and it's Tanner Bybee has been their best pitcher, but he's had to learn along the way. And it's the bullpen. The bullpen has carried the team this whole time, which is why I want to talk about this playoff theory. I texted you this earlier today. You've been very focused on
theories.
Huh?
You've been very focused on the playoff theories and all of this. I'm going to be quiet now. I swear. Last interruption. I'm going to he's spent a lot of time on this. So get ready to enjoy it.
Looking back at 2016, I think we've said most of this season with how good this bullpen is that the key to the Guardians going deep into the playoffs was going to be their bullpen, no matter who they traded for. I've been saying this for months. You get Gavin Williams back. He looked great in his last start against the Tigers, right? You were not going to add a pitcher better than Gavin Williams, and we knew that, and I didn't. And Gavin's starting to ramp up. That looks good. Gavin's going to be hopefully very rested and have more bullets in his arm down the stretch because he didn't pitch most of the year. Hopefully that's the case for Alex Cobb. Hopefully that's the case for Matt Boyd. That could help you out too. But go back to 2016. I know it wasn't perfect, but that rotation was Corey Kluber and you had Josh Tomlin. You had a couple of decent. I don't think you even got a decent outing from Trevor Bauer. The first game against the Red Sox was fine. The rest of it wasn't great. And it was Miller, Allen, and Shaw. Like those, it was Kluber, Shaw, Allen, Miller, and a little bit of Tomlin, and then you had Ryan Merritt for a game. That was your postseason formula. Kluber, there's no Kluber in this rotation. We both love Tanner. We think Tanner's great. I think Kluber is a figure that's hard to reach. I think he can get there. And I'll say this because I know we're talking about like first postseason starts and getting over amped. Kluber was a master of not showing emotion, keeping a slow heartbeat on the mound. That will be something we'll have to see from all these guys who are first-time playoff experiencers when October gets here. We don't know how they're going to react. You never know. It's hard to tell. But I would argue that Bybee and Williams is certainly better than Kluber and what else they had that year. Like, there's no Kluber, but I think Williams is better than whoever caddied for Kluber in the playoffs that year. Lively is no worse than Josh Tomlin. Maybe a little bit more consistent even because Tomlin could give up home runs left and right. And as great as that Miller, Shaw, and Allen bullpen was, I'll say might be a Hall of Famer. Cade Smith is the new Andrew Miller. Hunter Gaddis has been great. Scott Barlow has been pretty good most of the year. Henches and Heron will be just fine, I think.
Gaddis has been unbelievable.
Yeah, Gaddis has been great. It's a deep bullpen, and here's the other thing too in the playoffs. We had whoever commented this months ago telling me this on the YouTube comments. I need to go back to them, but they said that when you get to the postseason, you're not going to rely on a lot of other pitchers. Look what they did in 2016. They relied on Kluber. They relied on the bullpen. Same thing here. You're going to rely on Bybee and Williams, hopefully to get you 5 innings, maybe 6, right? You're hoping for 15 outs, maybe 18 outs from those guys. Lively, Boyd, Cobb, whoever, you're hoping for 12 to 15 outs, and then you're going to bring in Cade Smith. You're going to bring in Hunter Gaddis. You're going to bring in one of the lefties. You're going to bring in Clase, and you're going to maybe get 2 innings from Cade Smith. You're maybe going to get 2 innings from Gaddis because you're going to have days off between games during the playoffs. So as weird as it is to say, this pitching staff feels like it's held together by gum and some staples. You know, if Cobb is healthy, he slots right in there with Lively. You lean on Bybee and Williams. You hope things go well for them the first time through. Again, Kluber had no experience going into that postseason. 2017, Cookie had no experience going to the postseason, and he pitched great in 2017. So I'm just saying, you're going to lean on that bullpen heavily. You're going to lean on your big guys at the deep bullpen. You're counting outs. You're hoping these guys can get you, 15 to 18 outs, and you're going to unleash the bullpen. So, I think that it's a very similar formula. Am I wrong here?
Yes, 100%. Always.
Okay, good. Always wrong. Never get anything right. That's fine. Some people tell us that we do a podcast once a day and we don't get anything right. So I don't know. Maybe 3,000 people disagree with that. So speaking of playoffs, Jeff, we're going to talk about the importance of playoff seeding next, because you and I had a long conversation out the air yesterday, and it's fascinating. Do the Guardians need the number 1 seed or a first round bye? Is that a good thing? We're going to get into that all coming up next. Guys, summer is still heating up. I got to tell you, it was hot today. I went to the pool for a little bit after work, and it's important to hydrate with things, how hot things are getting. If you're going to any of the Guardians games this weekend, the temperatures are going to be hot again. We still have August to go out here in Ohio. It's going to get sticky. You definitely want to make sure you are hydrating. Getting hydrogen electrolytes, essential vitamins, clinically tested nutrients from the number 1 powdered hydration brand in America. That's Liquid IV. I have used Liquid IV in the past myself before they even were part of this show. My wife and I had a backyard wedding last year. We had to put most of that together ourselves with some friends, and it was hot. It was a long day getting ready for the day before our wedding. We hydrated all week to prepare for that, and the wedding itself, we were just wanting to stay hydrated the whole day because weddings are crazy. So we were taking Liquid IV pretty much the entire week, and it worked out great. We were tired the next day after the wedding, but we felt great because we were hydrated. It was great. So TerraPure, live a little more. 1 stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. No more thirsty summers when you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV, and get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com. Use code LOCKDOWNMLB. Use code MLB at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com.
But first, let's talk about SupplyHouse. Getting supplies from the site that's made for skilled traders, SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business, and talk to a person in real life every time. Pros and skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from the free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com.
Guardians and Orioles doing battle for the next 4 days. Check out all the action in your Sirius XM app. Search Guardians. Going to be a lot of fun. Orioles are coming to town. So first thing is first. The Guardians need to split this series with the Orioles to hold the tiebreaker if these two teams finish the season tied for the top 2 seeds. Right now, Cleveland holds a 2-game advantage, but they beat them 2 out of 3 in Baltimore. So this is a 4-game set. You only need 2. Big matchups too, by the way, Jeff. You've got Ben Lively on Thursday versus TBA, otherwise known as the rubber arm. That's what I call it.
Could it be one of the guys they traded for? Could that be part of the reason it's TBA?
Yeah, I haven't seen yet. Friday,
Could be maybe Trevor Richards potentially.
Ooh, that would be interesting. Friday is Dean Kramer versus Carlos Carrasco. So Carrasco gets another start.
I love that movie he was in, Kramer versus Kramer, right? That's him.
Kramer,
that
love it. Yeah. Zach Eflin will go Saturday. Saturday versus Tanner Bybee. That'll be a great matchup. And then Sunday, you've got a really good one. You've got Corbin Burns versus Gavin Williams. So it's going to be a fun weekend in Cleveland. Saturday is going to be crazy. I will be at the game Saturday. There's also SummerSlam going on. It's going to be nuts.
It's SummerSlam in Cleveland, or is it?
It is. It is at the football stadium. So that will be very interesting.
I don't know. I don't know wrestling. Sorry, everyone. If that.
Yeah, I was going to go, and then I realized we were going to be at the game because Saturday night is also CC Sabathia Hall of Fame night, and I just think that's fun to see that sort of thing. So right now, Cleveland is the best team.
Future Yankees Hall of Famer CC Sabathia.
Yeah, I'm wondering. I'm guessing they won't retire 52 because normally they only retire numbers of guys who go into the Hall of Fame as Cleveland players. So I don't think CC's getting 52 retired. So we'll have to see. All right. So right now, Cleveland holds a 2-game edge over Baltimore. They hold a half-game edge over the Phillies for the first overall record. Jeff and I were talking yesterday for this team. It's so fun to even be at this point. It's crazy to me we're even at this point. But
110%.
We're talking about this team earning a first-round bye and why that's important. First of all, I don't think it needs really to be stated. This team really needs a first-round bye, because it gives the bullpen time to rest, which is great. B, it allows you to leverage what you do have in this rotation. So you're really hoping Bybee and Williams pitch well in the playoffs. So if they get a first-round bye, whoever they play in the second round in the ALDS, that team will have already used at least 2 starting pitchers, maybe 3 if it goes 3 games. Most of these first-round games have not gone, or first-round series have not gone 3 games for the most part, but at least 2 starters down for that team. So whoever they come into town with, and that's that ALDS, Cleveland matches up Bybee and Williams versus their number 3 and number 4, or number 4 and number 1. So we'll see how that goes. That's going to be interesting. But I think that's why this team does need the first-round bye. And right now they're 10 games up on Houston, who now is in first place for the AL West. So they've got a pretty nice lead for one of those first-round buys, whether it's 1 or 2. The 2 questions around this, though, Jeff, are which seed do you want, which we'll get into how it would look today and what we think about that. The other question is, we've seen a lot of teams in the past talk about how the time off's not been good. And I don't buy that, because the time off gives you such an advantage. I know time off in baseball is weird because you want to play and you want to be in rhythm and all that stuff. But the Guardians bullpen is going to need that rest. You're going to want to line up your best pitchers that you have in this rotation at this point. So I value the time off for Cleveland. I think you just got to find a way to make it work during the off days. I know you can get rusty and all that stuff, but do you buy into that the time off between the rounds is bad? And do you think it's more important to have the 1 or the 2 seed?
I think it can be bad for pitchers, because pitchers are funny creatures in general. And, they like to
stay on routine.
Yeah. Make every little bit of routine. And yeah, I think there could be a world where that bothers some pitchers to have to fall out of routine a bit. And it's definitely one of those things that I can totally see for certain guys. I think, in general, the biggest advantage comes from the other team having to potentially throw their top 2 starters or their top 3 starters. And that sets you up for a situation where you have a biggest advantage we've seen in the second round. So you want the bye. And I think Cleveland is set up really well to get there, because I still think Seattle's going to take that division, but it's been the worst. I mean, for everyone complaining about the Central, it's very clear the AL West is the worst division in the American League right now. And yeah, I think in terms of who I want to face, I don't know if there's going to be, because it looks like let's say it's Seattle who makes it. I think then Seattle would likely get Boston or Kansas City right now, right? Mm-hmm. And then you get New York.
If the season ended July 31st, it would be Houston. If you think Seattle is going to catch them, it would be Houston versus Kansas City, or Mariners versus Kansas City, and Cleveland would await the winner of New York and Minnesota. And you and I were talking off air about New York's starting rotation is really not that great. We were both saying that New York and Seattle are not ideal first round matchups for Cleveland.
Yeah, wait, you said their rotation is not that great. Their rotation's pretty okay, at least. I mean, it's got more name value than production value, but Gil and
some of their starters are getting pretty beat up. They're very mediocre. I don't think they're a whole lot. Like, is it better than Cleveland's rotation? Sure, it's more stable and more proven. I mean, but their numbers aren't fantastic this year. Yeah, agree. Cleveland's going to go into this with the worst rotation. There's no doubt about that. Their rotation is going to be the worst, even with Bybee and Williams. But again, they have the best bullpen. You just hope that you can lean on Bybee.
Seattle's is deadly. Baltimore has Corbin Burns. The rest of it,
that's a tough one.
But
all those teams have very shaky bullpens. Yeah. I think that it's interesting that I think you and I both said we don't want to see Seattle in the first in the LDS because the thing with Seattle is if they have to go 2 or 3 games in the first round and then they come to Cleveland, whoever they throw in game 1 against Cleveland is going to be just as good as Tanner or close to it. So you're not really gaining an advantage against Seattle. Their bullpen's not as good, and they made offensive improvements. We'll see how the rest of that comes together for them. Houston has been banged up in their rotation, so we'll see how that goes if they end up winning that. I mean, whoever wins the West obviously will be the number 3 seed, and the loser probably won't make the playoffs at all. It's going to be between Boston, Kansas City, and Minnesota, and with the Yankees and the Orioles jockeying for number 1 wild card or the number 2 seed overall.
And the thing I got to bring up, what I talked about with you, and I don't know if I brought up on the air on here, is like Kansas City is a 500 team when they're not facing the White Sox. That's kind of an amazing stat to me. That they've Cleveland has struggled with the White Sox, but Kansas City being 500 against every team that isn't the White Sox just makes them. If any of their fans are listening, get mad, but they're more pretenders than contenders when you are relying, and they don't face the White Sox anymore. This was their last series against them. So yeah, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be 2 teams. I think the Twins do make it, and I think Cleveland is going to make it, but I don't think we're going to see 3 Centrals in the postseason.
Yeah, I think Boston probably winds up getting in there. I agree with you. Their offense is decent. Their rotation is solid. They added some bullpen help. I don't know how good the bullpen help is going to be. And for the Twins too, the Twins did nothing at the deadline. They got Trevor Richards, who is like a rich man's version of Eli Morgan. Like, he gets lefties out because his changeup is ridiculous. But that's it. That's all you can do. The rest of their bullpen has been shaky this year. Johan Duran's been human.
Yeah,
Pablo Lopez has been
teams
underperforming his metrics. They've got a great offense. The Twins scare me because they have a great offense. Their offense is crazy good. But we'll see. But
teams are calling on Duran, which is interesting. There are teams, even though they're in the postseason, who thought maybe they could buy.
They were shopping him around because they thought it would get them some pieces that they were needing at the deadline, which never happened. So no matter what, Cleveland is in position to have a first-round bye. I think they need this. I mean, again, they're 10 up right now in terms of the first-round bye, not being the 3rd division winner. So I think it's very likely they end up with the first-round bye. I just think that's really important for them, and just pray that you're not matching up with Seattle in the first round because your pitching advantage is gone then. That's the only thing. Like, everybody else, you can at least even up rotation wise. I think Seattle's the only team on paper that when you get to game 1 of the ALDS, if they're coming off the wild card round, you won't be able to match up with. You'll be able to match up with everybody else, but Seattle will probably negate that. So.
I will say, weirdly, they have done well against Seattle's pitching this year, so there is that side of it.
No, they have.
It's weird that that's the case, but yeah, for whatever reason, they really can tee up on the best rotation in baseball.
We've seen it a couple times this year for sure. All right, finally, Jeff, let's get into other draft pick debuts on the other side of things. We're finally going to do it. I'm excited. We'll talk about Bazan, we'll talk about other draft picks and when and where you might see them.
Undrafted free agents even.
Maybe. It's going to be a packed house. I think it's going to be a crowded house in Cleveland over the weekend. Maybe you want to go to the Guardians Orioles game. Orioles? Not the Oilers. The Oilers don't exist anymore. Anyway, Game Time is the authorized ticket
they do in hockey.
In Major League Baseball. That's true. You can get tickets to them through Game Time as well. You can get tickets faster and easier, and then prices on the Game Time app go down before the first pitch. That's great for games like the Orioles and Guardians that it's going to be close to sold out. Also great for the wrestling event that's going to be in town over the weekend too. If you have not gotten tickets to that and you want to go, check before the event starts on there as well. You can maybe get some good deals on that. And, you know, I love the seat views. I love that you can put tickets in your shopping cart, get the checkout, and you know exactly how much it's going to cost. There's no surprise fees. Game Time makes that one of their best features. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB, and you're going to get $20 off your first purchase. So it's a great weekend to make your first purchase on Game Time if you haven't yet. Terms apply. Create your account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. And check out the action all weekend long against the Orioles on your SiriusXM app. Just search Guardians to hear Tom Hamilton talking about a lot of different things, including, I'm sure he'll say something tomorrow about Travis Bazan's grand slam on Wednesday. I wish I was there for that. I was hoping to see it Tuesday, but either way, very exciting.
Weather.
Not really, you know, it wasn't really weather. I'm not going to say on air what it was. I'll say off air what it is, Jeff, but it was weather related, but there were some other underlying issues.
Okay. I just thought it was weather. Maybe I'm wrong.
It was weather related, but there were factors on top of the weather. I'll tell you off air. Sorry, guys. All right.
Travis Bazan murdered someone in the outfield, didn't he? Or Bazan. There was a full-on murder, wasn't it? I knew it was coming. It was too good to be true.
That happened in Kinston, not with Travis Bazan, but my friend of mine who was a broadcaster in Kinston years ago when it was the Kinston Indians. They had to rope off the outfield because there was a murder behind center field. So you joke.
I didn't know about this. I didn't know about this.
Here's my guess. So the captains are out of town after this week, and they come back on the 13th. I would not be stunned if Travis Bazan is not a captain by the next time the captains come back home after this series. We'll see. Just how things are going. I'm telling you, I was watching that game, and the guy knows what pitches he wants to swing at. He has a zone. He has an idea. You know, he got walked by not Carson Milbrand. Noble Meyer walked him in his first at bat, threw him like one strike. The second at bat was a grand slam. The second at bat was also a walk. Again, one strike, and then his third at bat was a grand slam, and he got that to 3-2. The guy is just looking like one zone, one pitch. He knows exactly. Did not even come close to swinging at anything that was not a strike. I think his zone is too advanced for high A, so I think it's going to be quick for him. Like I said, the captains finish up this homestand Sunday. I would get to a game by Sunday because I think they're going to go on the road the first week of August. They'll come back. Their next home game is August 13th. I would be surprised if I shouldn't say I'll be surprised. I would not be shocked if that game for him is Akron. Maybe we'll see. I could be wrong, but it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibilities.
Getting people excited out there.
Yeah. Who is the next draft pick that's going to make their debut? Because none of them have been added to the roster yet. I think we can 100% rule out all the high school pitchers. So no Joey Oki, no Chase Mobley.
Wait, are we saying who's going to be the next to make it to the big league?
No. Next minor league debut, pro debut.
In at least as low as A ball, right? We're saying it has to be in
anywhere. Just who is gonna make their professional
the high school
debut.
Guys could play in A ball, or not in A ball. In the pitch. We've had some guys report Arizona.
Arizona's done.
Okay, so they just go and do the camp. You're right. Like in trucks basically. I kind of think like Rafe Schlesinger might be a guy. Those relievers, they tend to. Walters, they let pitch some last year, didn't they? After they drafted him, am I wrong in that? Didn't he come in and throw a little bit?
That's a great question. I don't know that he did. No, Walters did not pitch last year.
So it's not major. We know that.
We know it's not Aiden Major. He's got Tommy John. I think the easy answer here is Jacob Cozart. I think Jacob Cozart. I could see. Here's what I could see. I could see because they got to make 5 cuts. They got to add 21 guys from the draft picks and the undrafted free agent and Xavier Martinez, who we haven't really talked about yet, which we need to tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think you move Cooper Ingle to Akron and you put Jacob Cozart at high A. That's my guess, but he could go to low A too. I think Jacob Cozart is the easy one here. I think because Cooper Ingle got reps at the end of last season.
Yeah, I will say though.
Bennett Thompson. Bennett Thompson can go to low A. And Kozar could go to high A.
High A, that'll probably happen. I also think, it's worth pointing out that every year a few arms do debut. So I think
Matson,
Cam
Hefner,
Schulte, and
Caden Favors,
and Walty. Is it Cam Walty?
Cam Walty. Yeah.
Did they have back-to-back cams? Back-to-back cams,
yeah.
Right? So 2 cams, 1 team. No.
3 cams.
Cams. They took cams. At least Cameron. The other 2 definitely went by cams. So it was just 2 cams, 1 team. They'll probably be on the same team eventually, Schulte and Walty. That sounds like a Schulte and Walty. Like that's like an 80s sitcom. But I think those guys, we've seen the day 3 college guys pitch. So I think those the Zach Jacobs, Adam Tulloch, right? Like we've seen those guys come in and pitch. So I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I would like to see Cam Walty pitch. That would be interesting. I kind of like him. Do you think that Donovan Zask doesn't pitch just because of his health history? They won't ramp it. Because here's the issue with the college, any pitchers. The high school kids, there's 0 chance you're going to see them, I think. The college pitchers, though, the only thing is, like, some of these guys stopped pitching in May because they didn't make the College World Series.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ones that maybe did, I don't even know who made
I think Zask might, because he was in – I think the separator is the guys who were in the Cape. Like, he was pitching in the Cape, so he's not ramping back up.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that.
So he was in the Cape, and Cam Schulte was in the Cape. Mm-hmm. I don't know about Walty, but I would bet those 2 pitch because they were.
It's about how comfortable they feel ramping these guys back up to go out and throw a couple of innings. I don't know. That's always their concern, because they have pitched and they stop and they sort of pitched again and they stopped. So it's like you've got to build them back up and then get them out to an affiliate and get them on a schedule. So Schlesinger threw a lot of innings this year, so I'm curious to see how they handle him. I would love to see him pitch because I think he's a fascinating guy. I think Caden Favors is going to pitch. I feel like Caden Favors is a guy you're definitely going to see. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to Lake County because he's a strike thrower, right? Like, I think he's a guy who could. I don't see the point in him going to Lynchburg because Lynchburg does need arms, I will say.
Yeah, I think you're going to see them going to Lynchburg for, especially now that Bresnahan has been out. Like, that just opens up a starter there. Like, they're going to have to move, and Clemmy, right? They were both there, so they need starters.
Yeah, they need innings. You're right.
I bet that Favors goes to Lynchburg because, I mean, again, Messick did the slow climb. It's like they do a slow climb with guys.
There's really nowhere to play Garrett Howe because Welbin Francisco is going to play short at Lynchburg now, and you got Christian Knapsack and Juan Benjamin, and you got Frandell Dewey there too. I don't know. I mean, I guess they could add. They did subtract Rafael Ramirez. Maybe Garrett Howe goes there.
I'm just kind of like, the Frandell Dewey's and that. It's like, how much are those the guys?
5 guys. So
yeah, it's like how much of those guys block a recent pick, and we know the 11th round pick is often a valued pick for this organization. So,
and who was 11? It was Garrett Howe.
Howe, yeah. So, yeah, I think
Howe goes to Lynchburg. He'll just have to rotate in with Benjamin and Knapsack and Francisco.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing more because it's like maybe we see a whole line of infielders move up thanks to Tana. And then
Jason Churrio's got to move up. We're gonna save some of that conversation tomorrow because tomorrow we're gonna talk about obviously the series against Baltimore getting kicked off. We'll talk about that first game. We'll talk more about how fast Bazan is going to move. We previewed that today. And then tomorrow we'll talk more about guys like Jason Churrio who need promoted, and we'll talk about the guys they have cut, that they will cut, give them kind of their moment to shine, and then we'll get into a lot more as news happens.
Yep,
news happens. Roster spots.
And, again, thank you, everyone. Our numbers continue to stay strong. We really appreciate all of you joining us and all the kind words over the last few days. It's been unbelievable. It does mean the world to us. There was a time where we were struggling to get 1,000 people to subscribe. So to see that has been very meaningful. So thank you all. But let's keep growing. When we started recording today, we were 1 away from 3,000. We're at 3,099. So 1 away from 3,300, 3,100, I should say. But tell a friend, keep going. Let's keep pushing. Let's keep growing this thing out. Thank you all again. Remember to rate and review, download daily. It helps. Subscribe wherever it is. Hit that like button and go Guardians, go.